Hi there, and welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, hope you're having a fantastic day and an even better week. In this video, folks, we're going to talk a little bit about the coyote and the roadrunner. Do you remember those? Coyote and the roadrunner. If you're not familiar with the cartoon of the Wile E. Coyote and the roadrunner, Coyote's constantly trying to catch the roadrunner, right? Roadrunner is zipping through the desert typically, and the Coyote's using the Acme rockets and slingshots and you name it, roller skates and any mechanical device that can be conceived of, and more, to try to catch the roadrunner. Any little gimmick, any little trick, right? To catch the roadrunner. And it's this ongoing adventure, really, an adventure really to watch the coyote try to figure it out, right? But he never really catches the roadrunner, right? The roadrunner, the whole beep beep, thing at the end, typically is that roadrunner reminding him, what is that roadrunner really saying? Let's break it down. What is that roadrunner really saying? Enjoy the adventure. Enjoy the journey. And this is where we're going today with this video, is all our endeavors in life are essentially, can be boiled down, okay, like it or not, in the whole framing of the coyote versus the roadrunner. Roadrunner could be any goal that you have. It could be a relationship that you're, hopefully healthily pursuing, right? It could be a profession. It could be, any other lofty goal or achievement, right? Maybe you're a creative songwriter, or you're a writer, or you're any facet of creative. And then maybe you're somebody who produces, and you're trying to, build buildings or whatever it is, right? There's a myriad of you with myriad of interests and professions and so on, right? And relationships within the community and all these things. You could say in some sense that the roadrunner represents a perfection, right? And the roadrunner is the singularity, right? Is that perfect place that we aren't at currently, right? So all our endeavors are essentially us, right, as the coyote, chasing them, figuring out ways to, and if you think about it, folks, this is also our challenge too, because the coyote never really figures this out, right? The coyote never figures out that it's all about this adventure to get closer to the roadrunner. The coyote never figures it out. So that's why I'm here today, okay? I'm from the Acme Help the Coyote Out, organization, and we're going to talk about this, right? We're going to set you down, and keep in mind, I'm a coyote too, okay? We're all coyotes, all right, in this situation. But to understand that trying to catch the roadrunner is fantastic, but understand too that in some sense you never truly achieve, right? Even if you achieve a goal, a lot of times I talk about jumping and talking about organizational culture because that's where we come together to form as teams to serve our customers. But essentially aren't all our customers, the communities, our families, our friends, everybody. I mean, we're all connected, folks. All the dots connect, right? So while we jump in talking about it from that perspective, we have to understand that even in organizations, we're chasing some goals, right? But even sometimes when we achieve certain goals, they're really targets, right? So that's really the coyote saying, if I can get within 3 feet of this of this roadrunner, right, and I can hold that, then I can close in. And then kind of in one of those infinity exercises where you go, how many times can you cut, take a ruler, how many times can you cut it in half, right? Well, if you go, you can essentially, the whole thing about that is it's infinity, right? You will always be able to half, not necessarily with our hand, right? But with, the smallest device imaginable, and it really becomes an exercise of the imagination at a certain point, in half forever. Okay, and this is why you can't catch the Roadrunner. This is why absolute perfection is unattainable. Okay, because it's ever elusive, right? A lot of times it's because we've made it that way, right? And there are facets to this too. On our best day, we might say, okay, we can hold within 3 feet of this Roadrunner, right? And we can hold that position. We can, we're best in class. We're 97%, in our on-time delivery and a bunch of our KPIs and so on, right? We might say that, and we can hold that for a month or two or a year, maybe 2 years, maybe longer. And if we're not using any gimmickry, right, that if we're not using any gimmickry, then we should be able to hold that, and is what we think. And maybe even, we may even hit 100%, right? But we don't often hold 100% forever, right? A lot of times it's like coming, it's like a whale breaching through the ocean. It happens, but it doesn't happen every moment, right? And so the idea isn't that we shouldn't try, though. That's the other aspect of this conversation of the coyotes that we're having today, okay? Is that it doesn't mean we shouldn't try to catch the Roadrunner, because you might get some tail feathers or whatever, right? And so on. You may achieve a goal for a while. The point is not to give up on trying to catch the Roadrunner, right? The point is not to stop trying. The point is to understand that a fulfilled life is not going to come from or after you catch that Roadrunner. And the difficulty that all of us in culture have is, oh, well, when I get this house, or when I get this car, or when I have this relationship, or if I get this promotion, or if I get that, then I'll be content or happy, if you want to use a pop culture reference. Then I'll be satisfied, right? And you might be satisfied for a while, but that's the element of this whole coyote Roadrunner scenario. There's multiple Roadrunner scenarios in your entire life. One Roadrunner is your emotional life. One Roadrunner is your intellectual life. One Roadrunner is your, family life. Your life within the community. You're this, you're that, you're all the things, right? Every facet of your life is kind of a myriad of these coyotes. But what can also happen too is why do we get bogged down? Why do we get exhausted? Why do we get tired? Because we're chasing perfection. We're chasing these Roadrunners. We're chasing these Roadrunners with the expectation that we have to get really, right up on all of them in every facet of our life. But what we failed to realize, we're one coyote, okay? One coyote. And while we can get really good in a lot of areas, we're not going to be perfect in everything. And now this proves itself out. Now, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Let me just say that, okay? This is just a powwow before the big race, right? But the point here is that we should understand, obviously, that we're not going to be perfect in in one of these endeavors to catch the Roadrunner. We need to understand that some things we have to appreciate the journey of it, and that the journey now represents contentedness or a perfection. There's a perfection in the trying, in the effort, as long as it's not saying, well, I'm trying, and we're just sitting there on the side of the road. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. But when we understand that there's a peace and a joy and a harmony and a sort of happiness that comes from going after that Roadrunner, then the weight is lifted, right? Then what you find is, and I'm telling you this for another good reason, is when you lift that weight, what are you doing? You're lifting that weight off of the coyote. That coyote's been dragging these anvils behind it the whole time and doesn't even realize it. That's us, folks. we're carrying all this high expectation of ourselves that prevent us from what? Mending fences and healing relationships and doing, because not all of it is new goals and all of that sort of thing. Some of it is healing relationships and doing the due diligence and fixing our lives too, right? There's a certain roadrunner to that as well. You know, relationships, family, friends, community, all that are ever evolving, right? We're like all in a big pool, right? And that water in that pool is always moving, right? We're all sloshing around in this thing. So we call this thing we call life. So we have to kind of understand that. But in understanding that, though, there's a certain peacefulness that comes from that, because you can visualize these anvils coming off your, that you're dragging behind you with a harness. Oh my gosh, I'm wearing a harness. Start throwing some of those off. And then your pursuit of any one or two or three or a handful of these things isn't quite as daunting now, okay? Sometimes we're just chasing way too many roadrunners, right? Way too many roadrunners. And now here's another aspect where it becomes very challenging. Some who may be a little bit more on the control freak side of things, right? And I say that affectionately. I don't, no harm, no foul. I'm not trying to. We all have a little tiny bit or a lot of bit in us, depending on who you are and, where you're coming from. But if you're somebody who's trying to control, and change people, right? And try to get them to chase a certain roadrunner in their own life that you feel is important. What you're missing here is that the person is only going to achieve doing well to chase their roadrunner if it's them choosing to chase their roadrunner. Now we know this is true, because if people are pursuing things that they love and enjoy, they excel, or at least they're satisfied in their progress, right? They're more at peace in their progress, in their hunt for what they're going after, right? Represented by this roadrunner. But if you're trying to get them, you're pushing them onto a track because, if you would just do this, your life would be, you would be happier. And this, it's that person is always trying to tell you what to do. You should, right? You should person, right? And even if they're not saying you should, they're pushing you in a direction that satisfies them, because part of their roadrunner that they have created in their own mind is the one where they feel like they need to fix you, right? Or they need to change you, or that you're, falling short in a particular area, or picking you apart, right? Some don't want you to even approach getting close to that roadrunner. People that don't want to see you succeed in aspects of your life to achieve, whether you catch that roadrunner for short stretches or for a while, or you stay, or your performance is such that or your success is such that you stay pretty close to that roadrunner. They don't want to see that. Why? Because they're not really trying. What they're doing is they're pointing out everybody else's, flaws and how they're not doing, because they don't want anybody to make them look bad, because they're just sitting on the side of the road. They're just sitting there doing nothing, really. They may be stuck in a routine, but that routine is, a really slow roadrunner who's walking up the road and they're barely moving themselves, right? So that's the thing. It's all going to be relative to each of our lives. No roadrunner, the roadrunner that we're chasing is going to be relative to our speed and our capabilities, right? Our capacity and our capabilities, right? So if you're somebody who's a high achieving, professional and all that, your roadrunner in that regard is light speed, right? And there are some of us that wouldn't necessarily be able to, stay stay at that performance level. But conversely, you may be weaker, say in your emotional or personal or culture, life within culture and community, right? And if that struggle, others may be excelling, right? So we kind of pick and prioritize what we feel we need to pick and prioritize. And no one should be demonized for pursuing whatever, whichever roadrunner they want to chase, okay? They want to chase this, great. They want to chase this, that, great. They want to chase this, great. But be wary. There are those who either don't want to see you catch the roadrunner or get close, and or they may want you. They may be manipulating you to chase their roadrunner. Okay, right? If somebody's setting you on their goal, they're making you feel bad. It's like, well, you should chase. You should achieve this. You should tackle that. This is what's really important, right? But is it important to you? Is it really your roadrunner, or is it somebody else's roadrunner? Okay, so be careful you don't get manipulated slowly and in a very sneaky way. And this can happen with family, friends, and people in the community, right? They can try to manipulate you and guilt you or make you feel bad if you're not doing a certain thing, right? That's them trying to get you to either stop chasing your roadrunner or help chase theirs down for them, because their roadrunner is kind of slow in other aspects, and they've got one that's maybe a little too fast for them, so they want your help. Okay, it's fine to help serve and to help and pitch in where you can, but not at the expense of you chasing your own roadrunner. So, all right. Hopefully you weren't worn out by the symbology between the coyote and the roadrunner. Remember, in everything, we want to choose a healthy path. We don't. we want to make sure that if we need to have a boundary to chase the roadrunners we want, we need to make sure that's known, and that can be difficult because some folks don't want to see you chasing your roadrunner. Frankly, okay. Not to worry for those people who are roadrunner, people out in the world. We never truly catch the roadrunner, right? We never truly attain perfection or total peace or total harmony or total joy and nirvana or whatever, right? That we don't achieve that in this 3D experience of living. So, does that mean we don't try? Of course not. We need to always try. In fact, that is the point. The journey it's not necessarily the destination so you stop, but it is the destination in motion, right? Your destination in motion. All right, folks. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, hit that good green domino 3 to 5 times a day or more to uplift, motivate, inspire, and just encourage one another. When you do this, not only helping to transform culture, but you're transforming your own life. But don't forget, you can't transform anything on the outside if you're not willing to transform on the inside, right? You got the roadrunners in your heart, too. Don't forget those. All right, folks, have a fantastic day. Hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.